Welcome back to last week's News Today, where we gather everything new that's official and lump it into quick videos every Sunday. This week is their monthly dev live stream, which is set in the Highwayman Hills in the Riverlands, which is under the influence of the ruins of Thanalith's story arc. Before we take a closer look at the skills, we want to highlight that the majority of skills shown in the live stream are healing abilities because at this stage in development, Intrepid are trying to get the core identity of each archetype right depending on their role within the Holy Trinity. This does not mean that the Cleric will not have offensive abilities, they will. So if solo-centric players want to build suited for solo gameplay, they can. And we'll likely see this with the introduction of the secondary archetypes and augmentation. Alpha 2 will be focused around base archetypes and how they fulfill their roles before moving on to implementing the augmentations. Let's begin with the spells we were shown, starting with Mend. It instantly launches a healing projectile toward a target ally. Each charge of this ability consumed after the first has no mana cost, and restores an increasing amount of mana to the caster based on the number of missing charges. Consecutive uses of this ability will gain bonus healing. It looks to have a total of 5 charges, which was a super tiny number in the corner of the ability. Next we have Deliverance. It's a held ability. Charges up healing energy that heals the target ally upon release, scaling in power the longer it is charged and the more % missing health of the target. I really like this one, even if it has a longer casting time, which lets the target to get to even lower health for the big burst at the end. Could cause some issues of waiting too long though. Onwards to Soothing Glow. It applies a healing over time effect to target ally. Reapplying this effect extends its duration on the target by its base duration value. This one has 3 charges, which you could apply to 3 different targets or all on a single target for a much longer duration. Flash Cure is up next. It instantly heals target ally. This may be used during other ability activations. It also has 3 charges, can be used while charging up a held ability like Deliverance, in case you're afraid of the target dying. Next is Resplendent Beam. Held ability, fire a beam of healing energy toward a target. Charging this spell allows the beam to bounce up to 5 additional friendly targets, closest to the original target based on how long it was charged. Now Bless Weapon. Imbues your target's weapon with radiant light, causing each of their weapon combo attacks to deal additional radiant damage and applies a mana regeneration buff to the caster. Each hit extends the duration of the mana regeneration buff up to a maximum of 15 seconds. Has a 10% chance to proc bonus radiant damage and apply a stack of burning to the target. It can be used on yourself. You can put this on multiple people to get even more mana regen. Up next is Barrier. Sacrifice 25% of your maximum health to place a health shield on target ally for 10 seconds. Does not stack and does not cost mana. Judgment is a slow heal on target ally for a large amount of health. If this is cast on an enemy, it instead deals radiant damage to the target and applies 2 stacks of burning. Love dual abilities like this. Paladin and WoW had something similar to it. On to Communal Restoration. Restores health to all party members in range instantly, plus additional healing over time. Allies under the hut also receive a plus 10% max health for its duration. The max health is done as a small shield against incoming damage. Another AoE is Consecrating Wave. Send forth a cone of radiance that deals radiant damage to all enemies while healing the 10 nearest allies. I really like this one. Damage and heals are so cool. Continuing the AoE spells is Divine Flare. Place a targeted area heal on the ground that heals all targets within after several seconds. Total healing is split between all targets hit. It'll be interesting to see how good or bad this is in raids, as uncoordinated group could steal healing from people who really need it. Chains of Restraint calls forth spectral chains in a target area that stagger enemies within or stun enemies already under the staggered effect. Then leave behind an area that deals radiant damage each second over 8 seconds. Seems mostly the same as before, which was pretty cool to combo with others. Next is Healing Touch. Heal a target ally in melee range for a large amount of health. This seems good for those who like to be a melee healer or to combo with others. Wings of Salvation. Sprout phoenix-like wings and leap to target ally, then grant a small amount of temporary health to that target on arrival. Nice little gap closer to let you use your short range heals. Using this alongside Flash Cure into Healing Touch could be a lifesaver for a near dead tank. Next is Defiant Light. Heal target ally for 50% of their max health over 10 seconds. If that target would receive fatal damage while under this effect is consumed and prevents that target's death, healing them for 25% of their max health instead. Another excellent ability. They're really making it hard for me to decide on a main class. And last but not least, Divine Infusion. Consume Divine Power to instantly complete remaining cast time of any healing spell currently being cast. The amount of Divine Power consumed is proportional to the amount of cast time remaining upon activation. Clerics have a third resource bar called Divine Power. The more radiant damage and healing, but not overhealing, the faster the resource builds up and you spend it on this spell to finish casting spells early. It also has a passive buff to the efficacy of heals if Divine Power is maintained at higher levels. We've also learned that skill points will be acquired through a benchmark system, which sounds an awful lot like the way we get Paragon points in Diablo 4, which is at 1/4 level of XP, half level, etc. Also, you'll be able to move whilst casting, but at a decreased movement speed like the mage was doing during their showcase. There will also be your standard resurrection abilities for single target and groups, which also means some of the XP debt will be recuperated, which is a good thing for sure. Might have people in global yelling for res just like in Final Fantasy XI. Last bit on clerics for this dev stream is that they don't receive their powers from a divine source, but rather through manipulation of the essence. That's good for those who aren't interested in religion in the game. They also gave us a bit of a look at the UI customization. It's coming along nicely, just like everything else we've seen, including which nameplates that you want to have shown. And the feedback thread for the cleric is up. As usual, they want to know how you feel about the cleric so far, how many held abilities you'd prefer in your kit, among other things. As always, if your question was not answered during the live stream, head over to the forums and check out the post by Vaknar. He replies to all the questions. Both direct links are in the description. They also showed off a little bit of art with a pretty neat looking red light armor set, and then the Vek are looking very cool with their robes. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of them in the future. And finally, we have Fan Art Friday with a pretty sick character art by Fishblood. Awesome job. And also, don't worry if World War III happens or aliens invade. As Steven said, they deploy what they have before our imminent destruction. So if we want to play it early, we know how to get our hands on it. And that's it for this week. I'd like to leave you with a little something that Steven said about the core pillars instead of kitties this week. But don't worry, they'll be back next time. See ya.
There are elements of the game design that are core to the game itself. Those core designs will never change. Aspects of the core functionality that's intended may be tweaked and changed. The family system is not a core pillar of Ashes. And so, like many systems in Ashes, the purpose of these alphas and testing periods and us even having these monthly demonstrations where we're showcasing current directionality and development is so that when players give feedback, we parse through that, we identify how it might conflict with our core pillars and philosophies to iterate and make changes based on the player feedback, and what systems it might ripple effect through before making iterative changes, right? And so to ask a question such as, will you be open to feedback on a particular system should the community give it? The answer is always going to be yes. So we don't have to ask that question. The question that should be asked is, if feedback from the community is contrary to the game's philosophy and core pillars, will you change the identity of the game to match what either loud minority or majority of players are looking for? And that is where Ashes of Creation will never yield its intent to develop a game that answers the call of what our core philosophies and systems are attempting to accomplish. And there are lots of different games out there for different people, and that's acceptable. So I don't want us to use the excuse of, well, I've provided this feedback about, a PVX game. I don't think PvE and PvP can live together in a game. Therefore, they should change that aspect of the game. That'll never be a thing that changes. Your part needs to understand, as a viewer, as a consumer, also that some things just might not be for me, and that's okay. And right now, our flagship product is this MMORPG, and we believe that we've identified a particular space within the consumer market that wants this type of IP and this type of product that we're developing, and we're going to stick to our guns when we create it.
Our guns.